Hello, I'm MrTieDye and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a couples tee. So I've had a few requests for that where somebody wants to have the same design on two t-shirts. And if you're working on the same size t-shirt, it's easy enough to just stick one t-shirt inside the other and line things up and dye it. But if you're working on t-shirts that aren't the same size, so here I have a small and a large t-shirt, and you can see that the difference, I got about 3 inches or 3 finger widths on either side. So these two t-shirts are not the same size, so it's not going to easily line up. But we can still get around that. And so what I like to do is I'll take the larger tee. So if you want to make sure that if you're doing, sorry I'm jumping around here, you want to make sure that you're doing a design that maybe you're going to do the arc and you want it to be on the same. So if the couple stands next to each other, you can figure out which side you want the design to be on. And of course this one here is going to be on the right side of the t-shirt, and this one's going to be on the left side of the t-shirt. So just to make sure that you are lining things up correctly, you can put a little X to make sure that you have that lined up. Now what I usually will do is I'll take the larger tee and turn it inside out. So now I have my X over here. Let's see here. Sorry. So I have my X now on this side of the t-shirt. And the same with my small tee. So they're both on the same side of the t-shirt. So now what I can do is put one t-shirt inside the other. And the way I find easiest is if you just put the smaller tee onto a hanger, then you can just slide the whole tee right up into the other one. And I'll usually line up the shoulder seams here on the top and line up the collar the best that I can. And since we're going to be doing the side, an arc fold on the side of the t-shirt, I want the sides to line up. And I'll show you in a minute here how I do a spiral tee. But for us, if you want the design on the side, and whether I do this big arc or I do a heart or whatever design, but if you want the two to match up, then you can take a yardstick and stick it up inside both of the t-shirts all the way up to the shoulder seam there. So you might have to just kind of finagle your way in with the yardstick. But I'm coming all the way up to this shoulder seam right here, right by the sleeve. And then you can just pick that both t-shirts up. And like I say, I have my X's marked on there. So I can see, you know, through the t-shirt here that I have both of my X's in about the same spot there. So I just kind of pick this up and shake it around. I pull the one sleeve into the small sleeve into the large sleeve here on just one side, of course. But once I kind of have that all lined up the way that I want it, then I can lay this back down. And you want to smooth out the rest of the t-shirt. Like I say, the rest of it's not going to line up. This other sleeve, of course, isn't going to reach all the way in there. But the main thing is just to kind of smooth the t-shirt out as flat as you can get it, so it's easier to fold. And like I say, now I can see that the one t-shirt is right here and the other one extends all the way out over to here. So it's just about getting the t-shirts kind of square in there and laying as flat as you can. And then the ruler helps you bring the two sides together. Okay. Now once I have that, I can lay this out flat. Once again, straighten everything out. I can still fill a wrinkle in there. Sometimes it takes just a little bit to get everything adjusted just right. So let me go put my ruler back in. There we go, that's better. Okay. Now I do have another set of t-shirts that I did where I just stacked one on top of the other, and I'll insert a picture here to show you. The design lined up. I did a spiral. The design lined up, but the saturation just wasn't the same on them. So this here is going to help you get better saturation. Okay, so now, like I said, I can see my two X's right here. So I know that that part is lined up, and I put a little dot there. And then I'm going to draw my arc, the one that I'm going to fold. So I usually just put just a simple little slip knot in here, wrap that around my marker. And then I'm going to draw my arc on there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and fold that whole arc, and like I say, I'm folding both t-shirts in there. So some of the layers are going to be just a single layer here of the t-shirt. So these first two folds, I don't have the small in there yet because it's shorter. But once you get the other, you want to make sure that you're picking up all of the layers of the t-shirt. So there should be 4 layers of fabric here. And this is also going to come into play when we're putting the dyes on, just making sure that you're getting a good saturation. So what I'll do is open these creases up and just kind of look for inside for the white spaces. So now you could go ahead and flatten this all the way out, straighten out all your creases and do the whole thing, but I'm going to do just the arc part, and this part here I'm going to scrunch. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this off right here. And we'll leave that attached. And then I'm just going to open this up a little bit and scrunch the rest of this here. So what I'm doing here is just kind of opening some of these creases up here and just pushing the fabric down inside just to give a little bit of a scrunch effect there. Can't do it to all of them or you're going to open this up too much. But I just try to get a little bit in there just to break up that pleating, and then scrunch the rest of that, and then we'll tie that off with kite string. Here you can go ahead and adjust more of these creases if you need to. Some of them I can see are taller than others, or they're overlapping. So just to help your dyes go on better and get an even patterning, you can straighten some of these out, pull some up, push some down. But basically this one is ready for some dye. But we're going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab a couple more tees, and I'm going to show you how I do this with a spiral. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now for your doing a spiral or any design that you're going to want to just center in the middle of the t-shirt. And like I say, if you have the same size shirt, it's easy enough to put two shirts inside each other and just line them up. But if they're different sizes, what I do is I will go ahead and find the middle of the tee and draw a line down the middle, so that when you stick one inside the other, then you can line the lines up, and then you know you have the middle of both tees. So I already did that for this tee, so I'll show you how I do it for another tee. So what I'm going to do is turn the shirt inside out so that I have access to both of the hems here on the shoulder, the armpits, and I'll smooth those out. And then from the armpit down, I smooth the t-shirt just to make sure that the bottom is nice and centered along here, because that's where I'm going to find the center here. I'm going to pick up these two bottom corners and I lay those together. So the front of the tee is where I want to draw the line, so I'm folding, this here's the front, so I'm folding to the back here, so that the front is right here. So I have my corners lined up here, and I just pull both of those up here so I have the front, and then I'm going to pinch and grab just the middle of the front of the tee and separate out the back of the tee. So there's one line there, and you can go ahead and just take your washable marker, put a little line on there. Now you know you have the center of the bottom of the tee right there, and I'm going to find the center of the top, and the way I do that is I grab the neckline, and this here is the front and the back, and these are the two shoulder seams. So I'm going to just keep my finger here in the front of the tee, and I'm going to line up these two shoulder seams. So you can just kind of open up the t-shirt, peek down inside, and just line those up. You can also just find these ridges here on both sides. Once you have those lined up nice and neat, then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to just draw a little line on the top of the tee. That's the center of the top. And I do have a video, in my centering video, I show two ways of centering the tee. So this here is the second way of doing that. I'll put a link to that down below, but I'm also explaining everything right here. So then I'm going to use my yardstick and draw my line down the middle of this tee. So now once I have that, then we're going to take the smaller tee and put it on a hanger, and then we're going to slip it up inside just the same way we did before, except for this time, instead of centering on the side, we're going to center in the middle of the tee. So this time I'm going to want to try to line up my neckline here the best I can, and I'm just basically trying to line up, make sure that my two blue lines are lined up there, and then I can reach in and pull my sleeves through on both sides. Like I say, the smaller tee, the inner tee is smaller, so it doesn't come out all the way, but I still like to line those up the best that I can. And I'll go ahead and line these two collars up the best I can, and then just kind of shake the tee a little bit, and then you reach up inside and I just kind of smooth things out, get the sleeves smoothed out, the sides smoothed out, and then from there I can lay that down. And just make sure that once again that your outer tee is lined up. So I'm kind of grabbing the armpits here and then making sure I'm grabbing the inner tee also and shaking that out. And then just line your line up, and I can kind of see the line of the other one. So I have one line here and one line here. So I can just lift this tee up, this line up, scoot it over, and then I can kind of see through the t-shirts, my other blue line. I can see that those are basically lined up on top of each other. But like I say, you can lift up that other one And then from there you just smooth things out and excuse me. Then you have those lined up, so now wherever you want to twist your spiral, it's going to be in the center of both tees. So that's what we're going to do next now. I just usually will just pinch and twist there. And just line this up the best I can. I try to flatten my creases out. And then there's our spiral of the two t-shirts spiraled together. And these are going to be pretty close to the same coloring, the pattern and stuff. There might be still just slight differences, but this is as close as you can get to having two spirals be the same, is by tucking one inside the other and dyeing them at the same time. Okay, so there is the spiral tee for two tees, the couple tees. We have that all ready. So I'm going to put some gloves on and we'll splash some dye on this, and then we'll also splash some dye on the double arc tee here. Okay, so I went ahead and drew my lines on there, drew them on the front and the back, and then I'm just going to go ahead and color this in the rainbow. So, and just the main thing is to remember that you're dyeing two shirts here, so it's going to take a little bit extra dye, well, a lot of extra dye, more so than what you normally use for just one t-shirt, but you're dyeing two of them here at a time. So the main thing, any of these really thick areas around this outer edge, that's where you have a lot more fabric stacked up, so I just make sure to go over those areas really good, and you can take your bottle and kind of poke it down inside. The other thing you can do is use a cuticle pusher to kind of open those cracks up a little bit. But you want to make sure you get enough dye down inside there. And then the other thing I do is I kind of check to see if I can see any of the little white fibers sticking up. That just means that more of the dye has soaked down inside. And I can see that just a little bit on each one of these colors. So I'm assuming that all of that dye has started just soaking down into the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and apply another layer of dye on the top before I flip it over and dye at the bottom. One of the things that's handy is to put a dry rag down, which is going to just help soak up some of the excess dyes as you're putting dyes on, getting them to come down through the t-shirt. And I can see some of the red, orange, purple, I can see green, yellow, and a little bit of turquoise. So all of my colors are starting to poke through to this side, so it's looking good so far. So there's the 2T-shirt spiral, and I'm going to let this batch for 48 hours, and then I'll have the results for you in just a couple seconds. Oh, one thing, you will want to make sure that you do a check. You can open these creases up here. I can see just a little bit of lights areas, but as far as seeing white, I don't see that. So I think I got my saturation pretty good. But yeah, just picking up the areas, making sure you wipe your hands in between the areas. So if you just pick them up and spread them. This one here, I can see just the tiniest bit of white in there, but the dye is going to spread a little bit more on its own, so I'm not worried about that. The main thing is if you find big chunks of white area, to go ahead and add some more dye to those. But I'm thinking that this here is looking pretty good as I open those creases up. So I'm just pushing my hand underneath and just poking up on all of the creases here to look down inside. And that looks pretty good. So we'll let this batch for 48 hours and I'll have the results for you in a couple seconds. Okay, we're time to put some color on the other one. So I have emerald green. I have my purple mix. I use turquoise and light fuchsia to mix that. And then I have bronze and sapphire blue. These are all colors from Dharma. So what I'm going to do is dye this part here in the DNA, and then in this here I got a scrunch. I'm going to just use a teal and cobalt to dye the rest of the t-shirt. So to start with, I'm going to dye my DNA. The main thing with doing the DNA is making sure that you count your spaces. So I have 4 bottles of dye here, so I've got my first color here, and then I have a space for the next 3, and then I dyed my first color, and then 3 empty spaces. So, and I'll be doing a full DNA tea in a couple different ways in another video here, but that's the main thing, is just making sure you leave space. I know I did this once before and lost track of my count and didn't have enough spaces for my dye. So once you get the first one on, then the other ones are easy because you can just go right down the row and put your colors on in the correct spaces. This here is more of a dark blue than a purple, but I mixed, like I say, my turquoise and fuchsia to do this one. And once again, you have to remember that you're doing 2 t-shirts here, so you want to make sure that you put a little extra dye because that dye is going to settle down in there. Now we're going to put a layer of teal down for the scrunch. And this teal is not one that I bought from Dharma, it's one that I mixed from Dharma dyes, so I don't remember the exact combination, but I know I used probably my sapphire blue and some green and maybe a little bit of turquoise just to adjust the color the way I wanted it. And then, as I do with my colors, I'm just going to move one of them down, and then I'm going to go in the same order here. So before I started with the green, now I'm going to start with the sapphire blue and work my way up. So all of the green spaces are going to be dyed with the sapphire blue here. And then I'm going to put a light coat of cobalt over top of the teal here just for a little patterning texture. Oh, and I forgot to do the other side, so I'll flip that back over. The fan fold or arc fold on 2 t-shirts at a time. So these are going to be matching t-shirts where they're going to match up side by side when the couple stand next to each other. So I'm going to batch this for 48 hours and I'll have the results for you in about 2 seconds. Thank you for watching. Please like and share my videos.